Welcome entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs to a new delivery of our class number 8, Brand Positioning, corresponding to our course, Traditional Marketing Applied to the Online Digital Marketing. My name is Juan LLerena. I am a marketing consultant and an entrepreneur and intrapreneur myself. So I want to welcome you again, and I hope you really enjoy this class. All right, let's dig in. When we talk about brand positioning, sometimes, and I need to clarify this, a lot of people think about brand positioning as where you show on what page you show on the results when people are looking for your business or for what you offer on Google. And I just want to clarify that search engine optimization or your brand positioning doesn't have anything to do with SEO, okay? And because it's actually how your brand is positioned in a consumer's mind, not where you're showing on a search engine. Okay, so I just need to clarify that. So they're completely different things. So we're gonna go quickly over our definition. And positioning refers to the place that a brand occupies in the mind of the consumer and how it is distinguished from products from competitors. Okay, so it is very important that we understand that positioning refers to the place that a brand occupies in the mind of the consumer, of the customer, okay, and how it is distinguished from products from competitors. Now, we're going to talk about different things such as perception and other things that are important as well. But let's go to definition number 2, which is marketing, okay, definition in marketing. So a marketing strategy whose goal is to place the brand, okay, and this is referring to brand positioning, okay. It's a marketing strategy whose goal is to place a brand, product, or service in the mind of the customers in relation to its competitors, okay. So brand positioning in marketing, it helps you position your brand in consumers' mind in relation to your competitors. So if there are no competitors, we cannot position. Okay, you can be the only one in that arena. You can be the only one in that industry. You can be the only one that has that one product. And if there's no competition, if the competition is zero, then you can't position. Okay. If we say, for instance, that we have a monopoly, okay, then we could not be compared with somebody else, right? Because if we own the market or we control the market, we run a monopoly, then it could not be compared. Okay, so we're talking about free markets where there is competition and where there's different brands and different products that are trying to capture a piece of the market. So let's take a look at this slide. This is a very classical slide taught in administration and in marketing and business with different brands for different automakers. And each one of these brands are positioned in consumers' minds. They are positioned differently based on different attributes or characteristics that consumers recognize in each one of these brands. For instance, when you think about Ford, what do you think about? Is it American made? Is it a built to last? When you think about Toyota, what do you think? Now, my perception of the brand, my personal perception of the brand, it can be different than what is in yours or than what's in a lot of different people. But there will be a characteristic that a lot of people will be referring to when they're looking at that. You know, are you thinking of a family? Are you thinking of speed? Are you thinking of durability, safety? Are we looking at price? When you think about Audi, what do you think about? When you think of a BMW, what is that trying to tell everybody else? Let's say you drive a Honda. What does that tell other people? Okay, the same thing applies if you're driving an Alfa Romeo. What does that tell other people about you, about what your interest is, about what you're trying to show? Okay, and that's the reason why these brands spend big amounts of money and budgets from their marketing to try to be positioned on the consumer's minds in a specific way that their brand is represented. Now let's take a look at these brands again for a second. And if I tell you price, which one are you looking? If I tell you again safety, which one are you looking at? If I say luxury, which one will you be looking at? And affordability. So in some cases, some characteristics are going to apply, more than one characteristic is going to apply to the same brand or to multiple brands. But if we need to start eliminating some of the brands because they don't have that quality or that one characteristic, then you're gonna notice that you're gonna have less and less, and you're gonna start focusing more into like one or two of the brands. Okay, and that's because that's a perception. A brand that it lasts for a long time, that is like say cheap to repair, that the parts are affordable, that the vehicle is dependable, and that is like I said not very expensive to repair, then that will probably fit into the affordability, and for some it might be quality. Okay, so for some customers, quality might be associated with price and having the finishing touches and the interior leather, and all these different options for our vehicles. But for others, the same quality as the same characteristic as quality, it might mean that is durable, that is dependable, that is gonna run 250,000, 350,000 miles, and to them that is quality. Okay, so again, the perception or what the customer perceives in their mind about your brand, about a particular brand, it is their reality. Okay, and we're not looking to change what customers are thinking. We can influence their thoughts, but we can not change what their perception is because that's the reality. Now let's take a look at this chart. And this graphic here analyzes different brands in different ways, where there is a couple axes. One of them, the one that is running horizontal, is denoting the vehicles that are more conservative versus the vehicles that are more sporty. Okay, and the opposite axis that is running vertical, that one is going from practical, maybe like simpler, towards a more classy or sophisticated vehicles. Okay, so this is just a practical example of how typically these brands are positioned in consumers' minds, these car makers. So for instance, we can see that if we're looking for something that is classier and that is more sporty, then Alfa Romeo is in the the right upper corner, the right hand side. And also like an Audi on VMB is classier but sporty. Now Mercedes-Benz is perceived more as a more conservative vehicle, but it's still classier. Okay, so it's going to different groups within the market. If we look at Toyota, for instance, it's probably perceived more as a practical, easy to use, high quality, not so classy in a general basis, because there's definitely many different models, but it's still more conservative. Maybe for the family, it's not so sporty as a Honda might be, for instance, for others. Okay, and same with Ford, is perceived more as a conservative and more practical vehicle, by the general population, and that's the market that they're going after. Now, I just wanted to say here, and I don't want to forget that. Remember, these are customers are buying, and customers are thinking about brands based on their perception. It is not necessarily true that that's what they are, but if for the customer or for the consumer, on their mind, that's what a brand represents, then that's what it is, and that is their truth. In general, people buy things based on the message they're trying to portray in their own circles, in their own family circles, friends, and business. So, for instance, if you are, per se, gonna use this example. If you're a real estate agent and you're selling like $1 million houses, what are you probably gonna be driving? Kia. Are you gonna be driving Alfa Romeo? Are you gonna be driving a Ford or VMB? Okay. If you're in a neighborhood and you're trying to show that status is important for you in your neighborhood, again, what kind of vehicle are you going to be driving? What kind of vehicle do your neighbors drive? What do you think they're trying to show when they're driving those vehicles? I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to show status. Everyone has a particular reason for how they think and how they perceive the world around them. And you have to respect that, right? But that's an opportunity for us marketers to understand that consumers are also trying to show things, and when they're buying things, that they're looking also to tell a message to their circles and to their worlds based also on the products that they buy. And that might be an opportunity for you to cater a specific target market for your product and or service. This is another representation where we're looking at chocolates, okay? And some products are probably the same quality, but again, in the perception, we have two axes. The horizontal, that is going from cheaper to more expensive chocolates, and then from the vertical axis, from the low quality to high quality chocolate. And if we look, we'll see that M&Ms are perceived more as a cheaper, a lower quality chocolate, although a lot of people love it. I really like M&Ms. And the Hershey's bars, so the Hershey chocolates, they're perceived also kind of a little more expensive, but still on the cheap side of the equation here, and a little better quality chocolate. Now, if you're gonna buy chocolate for your girlfriend, or for your anniversary wedding, or for your mom for Mother's Day, are you just gonna give them an M&Ms, or are you probably gonna try to get a Dove or a Lindt or a Godiva, or a Ferrero? Okay, and again, we don't want to look cheap when we're giving something to somebody else, right? Especially if it's something inexpensive and if it's something that you can afford. So usually people will try to also, tell a message as far as what they do when they give something to somebody else or when they purchase something. Because if they buy something for somebody else and they probably want to say, I love you with the chocolate, that's probably great, but you can do it like, say, with one that it represents a little more higher class chocolate. For instance, like this Ferrero, they're on the right upper corner space, where it's a higher quality, and one of the more expensive ones, or a Godiva chocolate again. The wrapping is a little fancier, and the quality, it might be the exact same when you're getting on these other chocolates, but it might be just that the packaging, it also tells a different story, and it might be perceived differently in the consumer's mind. So there's another opportunity there with the packaging to create a brand positioning in consumers' minds that it might open an opportunity for you to create additional revenue for your business just by changing the packaging. But the point is how we are representing our brand and how we're trying to position our product and try to find a intersection with what the customer is looking to solve, but at the same time what they're trying to tell when they're buying products. This can be also applied with technology, for instance, also ingredients, but at the same time it can be perceived differently. Okay, so for instance, just think of technology, an iPhone or a smartphone. Which one is better quality? Windows-based computer, a Dell computer, or a Macintosh? Which one is perceived as a better computer? Which one is better? So for some, might be able to say, well, this one, Apple is perceived as a better quality, but the reality is that they both are equally good, for instance. Or somebody might say, well, Windows-based products are better. For me, they're better than Macintosh. you know. But if that is a reality for one person, it can be completely different, or their perception and the reality for one person, then the perception, it can be completely different for somebody else. Okay, and that's going to be their truth, and you can't change that. Okay, you can try to educate your customers, but if that's what your customer believes, then you're not going to be able to change that. You're not going to win that battle that easily. It is very difficult to reposition a brand in the consumer's mind. Sometimes if you have let's say an M&M, again, that it goes into a fancier package, but people know that they get M&Ms just like they can get in the other packaging, for instance, then they're probably still going to be perceived as a good chocolate, but it's probably going to be harder to raise the price because it might be still perceived as cheaper chocolate. Okay, so it's very difficult to reposition some of that. And that's why sometimes it's easier to come up with new brand. Sometimes customers that have the financial muscle or the economic muscle, they are more than likely to create a new brand within their own industry, within their own line of products, and create a new brand that it represents what they're trying to convey. They can probably be creating a cheaper version of the same product just because that type of market, that type of consumer is not interested in what that other product represents. The same applies if they're trying to cater to a more upscale market and a more upscale consumer demographic, and those customers are seeing this already existing brand as something that is more like for the masses. So it will be easier in many occasions to just create a new brand that it sounds a little fancier and that it looks a little fancier, and all of a sudden your messages and your marketing and your branding and your packaging or the presentation or even the way the language that is being used to represent that package can be completely different, but because it's talking to a different consumer demographic that is expecting to create a different perception for that customer as a higher, upper, upscale market. So that is really, really interesting. Now, key elements to position your brand. So key is to be able to differentiate your brand from somebody else, and you always have to think what makes you different. If we pause here for a second, then we're going to be able to think about SWOT analysis, your strength, your weaknesses. We've talked about how your consumer thinks, okay, and what is the consumer behavior. And again, you have to try to separate yourself from the pack. You have to set aside from the pack. Think of Apple, what makes them different. Think of Google, what makes it different, okay? And each one is winning a different battle in in that same space, but each one has its followers, its fans, its people that really, really believe they're great companies, and that's why they don't look at buying from the other brands, or they don't switch to another one just because they have this loyalty built into it, because to them they are in a special part of their brain and their mind where it's important to follow that brand or to support that brand, or that they just believe that that's the best brand because they have the best professionals or the best products, So which brings the next key point, which is how do you do your differentiation? Yes, you can differentiate your products, but sometimes it's very hard because a lot of people can copy you, and right now it's just becoming easier and easier with the amount of information that we have and the amount of people that are in the world, and everything becoming so global that people could know what you're doing, and they're like thousands of miles away from you. So you need to develop your intangibles, okay? And you have to look and think again as far as your strengths go, and try to build on your intangibles. Whether do you have a patent for that? How many years are you in the market that you've been doing this? What is your experience? Do you have a lot of experience? Well, those are intangibles you have to use to be able to set aside from the competition and try to occupy a position in the consumer's mind about your brand, so that they think about you first and they consider you before they consider somebody else when they're going to buy that product. And these intangibles, it will help you also with differentiating your brand from everybody else. What about the experience of your client with your brand? Can you get testimonials? Can you get people's testimonials about your brand to help you tell your story that they are gonna be able to tell other potential customers. Well, those are intangibles, and not everybody can get that. So if you have that, then you're a step ahead of your competition. Market share. What could Coke say? Coke say that they probably are leaders, right? The goal can be to be a leader, but you can just start as a new business and still try to be the leader. You have to think what are the attributes of your product or services in the market, and you have to set your goals to first recognize which ones are the market leaders and where am I at in relation with these market share leaders, in that particular market I'm trying to get in. So again, if you differentiate yourself, if you focus on and building your intangibles, in your culture, in your service, and your customer experience, that may help you also develop a strategy to be able to grow your market share in that market. Even if you're new, you can also become a leader. It might probably take you, more work. Maybe you will require more investment or spend more time educating your customers about your brand. But you can, even if you just start, you can be a leader. You just have to focus on what are your attributes that can make you a leader on that market to win market share. The fourth key characteristic to help with your brand positioning is if your differentiation can be copied, then it will be copied. Okay, so if your differentiation point can be copied, then you will be copied. Okay, and it only makes sense because if you're doing something that it makes sense, that is working, and your competition sees it because they're not blind, they're also smart as you are, then they're gonna copy what you're doing as a product. So you have to work in your intangibles. Again, I'm not gonna get tired of saying the same thing, but the customers are looking to build and live experiences and have good experiences about a brand. So even if you sell products, you can still tie experiences related to that, how the customer touches your brand, how they see it every time they're actually dealing with your company on your website via email, how you respond to them, how you answer the phone, how do you interact with them when they visit you in person. Okay, all of these different things really help you work with your intangibles and define you as a different product from somebody else. If you have for example, if you have even big inventories, if one of your strengths is that you have access to big amounts of inventory and product, or maybe you don't have a huge inventory but you have lots of varieties on a particular product. Let's say you're making shirts and you figure out that businesses are having a hard time finding uniforms for employees. There are like 4, 5, 6x, 7x sizes. I don't know what are the sizes, but I know that there are like larger sizes and they're difficult to find in a variety of different colors and different styles, and it becomes a challenge for employers who are providing uniforms for their employees, and they can't find the colors that they need because like those larger sizes come in more limited quantities or more limited options of colors and maybe sizes and the different varieties. So maybe if you can do that, then you're working on something also different that your competition is not going to be doing, and maybe that will create a specific niche for you, a particular space for you to grow your business. Again, find your strengths, develop your intangibles. They're difficult to copy. If you are customer service, do you think customer service is one of your strengths? For instance, think of a Caribou coffee experience. If you want to create that, you can, but they're very hard to copy. Okay, the little things they do, they're hard to copy. They welcome you. They greet you usually with a smile. You have a chance to answer a question on the board, and if you get it right, you get 10 cents off. Then they also have their loyalty program where you can sign up and then you get like free stuff as you consume their product, so it makes you come back again. So yeah, you can probably copy a lot of that and duplicate a lot of that, but the experience itself is hard because customers' minds, they keep thinking about the same brand. They might say, oh yeah, these guys do it just like Caribou does, and all of a sudden, who are they thinking about? Who are you helping out with that? Is it just your brand, or are you reinforcing somebody else's brand in the consumer's mind? Not that it can be done, but you will have to work very hard to copy those experiences, and it will have to also be part of your company's culture. Now it has to be relevant. Your message, your marketing, it will have to create a differentiation point that it has to be very relevant for your consumers. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. If your product, your service, your message, what you're trying to solve, what they're trying to buy or represent when they're buying the product, if your message, your product, your service doesn't really represent, it isn't relevant to what they're trying to do, what they're trying to show, then it doesn't matter. Okay, so you need to consider all these 5 different factors as you do that. Now let's take a look at this graphic, and this is the importance of vehicle attributes in the buying decision. Okay, so here they rated and they have used different color coding, where the price is only 25.2% of the process, the thought process for somebody to make a decision on buying a vehicle. Okay, so if a customer is only focused on price, well, they're only going to buy the cheaper price maybe, right? But overall, there's studies that have been done, and that they show that only 25.2% of the 100% that it takes for somebody to make a buying decision for a high ticket item as a vehicle, as a car, 25.2% is only price. So what are these other things? Well, brand follows with 22.4%, so the brand is equally as important as the price. So some people might know that a particular brand is cheaper, but if they don't care about that brand, if that brand doesn't mean anything to them, it doesn't represent them, then there's like 22.4% chances that they're not gonna buy that car, right? They lose that. The mileage is 14.3%. So people are also thinking, okay, how many miles do I get out of a tank or per gallon of gas? The exterior styling, the looks outside, 11%. The interior comfort, about 8.5%. Engine capacity, about almost 8%. About a 6% think of safety features, and the fuel type 4.1. Now, where are you at when you're deciding to buy a vehicle for your growing family and when you just have your first child? Okay, so are you gonna be thinking about brand? Are you thinking about mileage? Are you thinking about exterior styling, a more sporty vehicle? Or are you thinking about safety features? Is the safety features gonna be a bigger percentage on this buying decision when you're trying to decide what vehicle you're gonna buy for you, because you just had a baby and you're gonna be driving with your baby and you've never had that experience before, and you're just concerned that maybe it's okay in case anything happens, right? We all go through that. But so given any point in time, customers are gonna think differently. Even the same customers that have the same idea of a brand, over time they're gonna change. And they're gonna change as they grow with their experiences, where they're in time, and where they're in life, and what kind of things they're doing. So I just thought it was interesting. The next slide here is showing different importance of attributes changes for consumers based in different things, such as the different generations. So for different generations, so if we start quick looking at the baby boomers, the fourth column on the, from the left, baby boomers, the 50 years old to 60-year-olds, reliability is placed as the 96% of on the list of importance for as important vehicle attributes for them to purchase. And this back from 2015, so it might have changed a little bit. Now we see that the second most important one for them is the cost of the purchase, because they're about to exit the market, the job market. Now when we look at, for instance, the matures, 99% is more concerned about reliability. Obviously everybody's concerned about reliability, but the matures are probably, they're the older ones, maybe they just don't want to have to deal with replacing the tire, or they're just concerned that their vehicle is going to hold well in the snow or in the weather, that their vehicle doesn't break down and things like that, because it's just a little more of a pain to deal with that as we age. So it varies based on what their needs are and what in the stage in life that we're in. So for millennials, for instance, if we look at fuel economy, millennials are thinking about fuel economy, or think how they're gonna probably save more fuel and maximize their trips with by doing a carpooling or things like that will help the environment. Would that be the reason? Well, maybe. What else? Safety features. So we see among these groups, the safety features, the group that has more concern about safety features is again the matures, and we probably understand why. The performance, again, the matures are leading that vehicle attribute again, but then following after them, then we have a tie between the millennials and the baby boomers with 71% for performance, because they probably want to have a vehicle, that it perform, to their standards, whatever those standards are. The passenger volume, if we look, then the millennials and the generations X are looking, they're giving a little more weight to the vehicle attribute, passenger volume. So then they can, transport more people, more than the baby boomers, because maybe the baby boomers are going to be, empty nesters, and the matures, they're probably driving by themselves or with their couples. But the millennials and the generation X, that's the time when they're spending a lot of time with their friends and their families, when their families are growing in size and they have kids. Same with the cargo volume. It depends on where they're at or what they're doing. But it's just interesting to see that even the different generations look at the different brands and look for different aspects as more important, anyways, that it places. The important part here is that it places a special place on their mind when they're looking at particular products or brands. This next chart also shows the top 10 smartphone purchase drivers, versus from Android to iOS to Windows, and what is probably the main reason why people buy that. So if we look at Apple, battery life, it gives them a 49%, followed by ease of use. Then the next one is touchscreen, and the brand, is like fourth place. Unlike like an Android, the most important feature is the battery life. Secondly, we have the operating system. They just like the operating system. They like that it's a touch screen. Oh, and before that, the screen size too. Like Android users place a screen size tie with the operating system as a little more important feature. And then it goes to the touch screen, and the brand goes into like the 5th place. So just to show you that there's like different reasons why people are buying what they're buying, and they're weighing things a little different on their mind as far as getting a product that it can be equally good, or not necessarily as good as the other one, but in their mind it is, then that's what it is. This is a little chart where we can place products. I would encourage you to place your brand and say and think, okay, is my brand, where's my brand located on these these 2 axes, on these 4 quadrants? Are you on a low price, low quality brand? Are you a low price, higher quality brand? Are you a low price, or I'm sorry, are you a low quality, high price brand? Are you a high quality, high price brand? Like, what are you trying to represent? Where are you located in this quadrant? And is your brand representing what you really are intending to? You can be a low price and high price at the same time, right? You can be low quality and high quality at the same time. Maybe your different products or your different brands within your company, if you own different brands, you could do that. But if we talk about your brand as your business, where are you sitting? Where do you position yourself? So you can probably work on this exercise. Where is my brand now? Now remember, you can't be everything to everyone. You can't please everybody. You can't make everybody happy all the time. So you have to select your niche and stick to that, and remember to be relevant to that consumer in that section, in that niche. Okay? So you have to be as specific as you can be. The more chance of success you're going to have to be positioned in customers' mind. Now, communication. You cannot ask people to expect to know who you are if you do not tell them. Okay, so you need to work on communication over and over. You need to tell a good, compelling story. Not describe the characteristic of your product, but to tell the story of your product, or to tell the story of who's it trying to solve, how you came up with the idea, who is this helping, why is that this a good solution for anybody. Okay, and not only focus on offering high quality, but also look like you are high quality. Okay, so don't offer just kind of high quality and have like cheap packaging. In order to position your brand and the consumer's mind as a high quality, while your packaging, the look of the product, you know, how the kind of pictures that you show on your website, they have to be high quality to communicate, you know, and tell one story that is consistent all across the different platforms. If we're talking about the digital world, you need to be able to tell customers in that they, anytime they see your brand, anytime they see your product, they see this high quality if that's what you're trying to sell. And you have to be consistent who you want to be. You can't just tell one story one day and a different story the next day. Okay, remember, the perception is reality for consumers on their minds. Now, what to avoid? Over positioning. Okay, you don't want to be out of reach for the consumer to make them think that they do not need you. Okay, that like you do not solve anything for them. Maybe you are like too specific into something. Yes, you need to have a niche, but maybe you're like too specific to someone, you know, or you're describing yourself as being too specific to solve such a specific problem that all of a sudden people, they just don't think that you are for them, you know, or they don't think that they will fit you as a customer. So then you lose them. Or maybe you narrow your market too thin, too small, that again, you're gonna be losing that battle. Now, some restaurants might look like they're super expensive, but they're not. But customers don't even get in there. Or like some boutiques, they just look super fancy, super expensive, and some people don't even walk. They just look from the outside, and then they just think that everything is just gonna be super expensive. Hasn't that ever happened to you? I do remember a Chinese place that I used to walk by, and they would look like super fancy. Big salad, big bar, you know, big food bar. It had a bar actually inside too. It was like really nice, you know, the people were like really nicely dressed in uniforms, the servers, the manager, the music that they played, and the whole atmosphere. It looked like a really fancy Chinese restaurant for what I've seen in other places. One day I decided to try it, and this was after many times because I would go somewhere else. And I found the pricing was just about the same as any of the other ones, and the attention and the service was just as good as the other ones, plus a little better. The food is terrific. I still go there. Okay, so you kind of have to try to not to over position. You want to show quality. You want to show you want to look expensive. If you're expensive, well, then probably look expensive. But if you look you know, too upscale for somebody, well, you might be driving them away, and that's what you have to be careful with. You want to avoid under positioning also. If you fail to communicate a clear positioning to the end consumer. Okay, now this happens when the product positioning is vague, or you know, you've been trying to tell too much about the product, and the consumer is confused about what the product stands for or what the product is for. Maybe your product resolves too many issues, or maybe tackles too many problems. You haven't focused on one single one, and the consumer is just like, it can understand, you know, everything that it does. Does it do it or it doesn't do it? Is it for me or is it not for me? Is it really good at this, or is it not really good at anything? Okay, so under positioning is also a problem that you have to avoid. So you have to develop a good, clear message, and probably focus on the strengths. And once the customer shows and you pick their interest, maybe then you can dig in further and give them more information. Maybe sometimes the position is quite weak, and we have not effectively communicated with any real points of differentiation to our customers. So if you're under position too, that is a problem for your brand positioning. Steps. How can we do this? Well, you need to identify your competitors, see who they are. You need to find their attributes and identify those as well. You can probably get surveys with real data, okay, that it will help you understand how things are and how people are perceiving this from your competitors. You can place brands in two different axes, an XY axis, a vertical and horizontal, and just try to place those brands that you have identified from your competitors and their attributes, and then just try to place them and see where they're at and see where you're at, and find the best combination that you can to see where you're actually placing your own brand, okay? And this is important because if you're in the middle of the pack with everybody else, then are you really differentiating yourself from the competition? So you need to be in a specific spot, whether you are offering more quality or less quality, because less quality doesn't mean that it's a bad business either. It means that maybe you can afford to have lower prices, and maybe that opens the door for you to access a different market. The same with the pricing. Maybe your pricing again, it can be a higher price item, but again the quality and the things that you do as a business reflect the values that your customers want to see. Like if you treat well your suppliers, and then you pay your employees well, and that you are creating a good positive impact in the community, well, maybe you have the right a little bit to charge a little more, but also your brand can be perceived as a social responsible business that work with the community, that is investing on the youth, or that is investing on their own local communities, okay? And not everybody does that, okay? So that's something you need to find, how you can place yourself better on this axis here, okay? So put you can place here the different brands of your competition and see where they stand for, and see where you're at, and see where are you situated on that axis, and see what makes you different, or how you can make yourself different and tell your story better. All right, now you obviously have some homework to do, and this is to go back to that drawing board and try to identify where your brand is, and try to see what defines you as a business, and see how customers are actually perceiving you. Are you such in love with your business that you have lost sight of how customers are perceiving you? Are you suffering, yourself suffering, because customers aren't seeing you the way you think they are seeing you? Okay, so is there a correlation between how people are responding to your message and your sales and everything that you do in your communication process and your marketing process and your culture and the experience that you're presenting and you're providing to those consumers? Is it all aligned? Is it all logically aligned? Do they make sense? Okay, these are things that you have to think about, and that way you can develop better techniques, better strategies. Maybe if they're not all in line, well, you can align them now and start developing these strategies short term, mid-term, long term, to be able to have a more compelling story, a better design for your products, a better way to present your story, and develop a better experience for your customers. If you have a better culture, if your culture isn't there yet, well, you need to start working on it now, so it can be reflected on your experience for your customer. You see, it's all tied together. It's a really interesting topic that we cannot just ignore or stop paying attention. Well, this covers our 8th class. We only have 2 more to go, and I promise the next 2 ones are also equally interesting. But you're almost there. You're learning a lot, and I'm really excited and really proud of you. Again, this is a community for you, and we really invite you to contact us. There's different ways that you contact me as well, or follow me. I would really love to hear your input and your comments, how we can make things better, or what kind of topics would you like to talk about, or would you like us to discuss, and how we can help you get there to to the next step for you in your entrepreneurial career and your entrepreneurial journey. So we'd love to hear more about you, and again, we are excited to have you here, and we really hope that you are actually putting in practice all these different techniques and theories, applying those to your business. We can't do enough. There's always something to do in our business. And the moment we reach that perfect point in our business, then that means that we need to start all over again. We just can't sit and watch, everything just from the corner, just like, okay, we did it all we needed to do. Yes, that is great to be in that spot or be close to it, but it's always a moving target, so it never really ends. And you need to keep working. That's why you need to keep educating yourself, bringing your skills, up to date. You need to have enough time to pause for a second and think about your business and not get anything else done, and stop putting those fires out. So you have time to do also what's important for your business, not only what's urgent. So you need to make sure you have enough time. And I'm thinking of doing also a class on time management and productivity, more specifically to help you be able to manage your time better, since that's the only resource that is really, really limited. No matter how much money you have, time is limited and you need to make it count. All right, so this covers the class for today. My name is Juan LLerena, I'm a marketing consultant, and see you in the next class.